Good morning, cherubs.
Good morning, Heather.
Hello and welcome to the Cherub Chats podcast. I'm your host, Guardian Angel and Big Sis, Heather Michelle, and welcome to episode number 2 in season 2, the glow up season. I don't know. Today is actually the day that I'm launching season 2, so I haven't heard any feedback yet on what you guys think, but I know you guys will keep me posted. You guys are very vocal with me and I appreciate it, but I'm thinking glow up season. I have a little bevy. Today I'm drinking a Coke Zero, which I recently learned is supposedly better than Diet Coke, but we have to keep our throats, hydrated. So let's get the curriculum started. Today's episode is about the stories we tell ourselves, because I am a strong believer that the first step in becoming your dream version of yourself is to fully realize who you are today and what you're currently made of. And that begins with being really self-aware on the stories that we tell ourselves. Who do we tell ourselves that we are today? And realizing that you literally could be anyone you want. You just have to tell yourself a different story. And the person that we are today is the result of being told who we are, or us telling ourselves who we are. Last year, before going through this big shift, I told myself that I was really inconsistent. I have no follow through. I am all over the place. I cannot be focused. And everything I start, I stop. Everything I want to do, I fail at. And this was not only what I had told myself, but this was also what my mom had told me growing up. Like, oh, you're lazy, you don't do anything, like you have no follow through, da 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 da. And it literally started with me saying, I want to be consistent. So I'm a consistent queen, and I am no longer letting myself live up to that inconsistent identity. The first step of metamorphosizing and glowing up is letting yourself be defined by the vision of the future instead of the stories of the past. I don't care who you were yesterday. I don't care what your parents or what your friends or what teachers have told you or what people at work have told you. You are a new person today. Focus on the future and the person that you want to be, and let that person guide you through your journey of what you shouldn't do, and what you should identify and even speak over yourself. The stories we tell ourselves are that, just stories. And these are stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. It's honestly more on par with being folklore and myth than it is to being truth. The only thing that has made it like physically palpable and tangible in our reality is the fact that we have taken these stories as truth and acted upon it for years and years and years, and perpetuated cycle after cycle after cycle within our own lives, let alone the people around us. And it has become reality through that. A lot of the times, the people that tell us these stories are just projecting based on their experiences and based on the stories that they've been told as well, which is why it's so important to do the work, stop the cycles, break down the stories that you've been told, and tell yourself stories that you want to hear based on your dreams and desires and what you see for yourself and not what other people saw for you. If we learned the negative stories, if we saw it take shape into the physical reality, that's confirmation that the stories we tell ourselves aren't just foo-foo. It's not just like woo-woo affirmations. It becomes reality. It becomes concrete. And a lot of us are suffering from the consequences of these negative stories we've been told for years and years and years. So why not just tell yourself a different story, learn a new habit, and make those concrete? It's funny how like when something is good and positive, we believe it to be like too good to be true. It's fantasy. It's not real. But when things are negative, it's like, no, this is how the world works. But I'm sure you guys have heard the story of the kid that was not good at school, and they all took like a practice SAT, and he got back his scores, and it was a really high score. And from that point on, he was so motivated he ended up excelling in all his classes and improving his grades and getting accepted into school and getting a scholarship. All from that one test that told him, you're smart. You have something in you. And it ended up being that score was someone else's score. It was a fluke. But look at the physical changes that happen in his life because of this pretend thing. So if all stories start off as pretend, just tell yourself a different story. Tell yourself positive stories. Tell yourself different stories. But a good way to pinpoint a story that we have fully internalized as being part of our character and our identity is noticing repeating cycles that we are not able to break within our own life. For me, it was a lot of procrastination. I've come into a lot of situations in my life where I've either failed something or missed the mark at something because of procrastination. And there's so many times that I could have picked up the camera. I could have started content creating, but I procrastinated and I let fear of failure get me down and keep me from what I really loved. And I finally stopped. I did it. It's even procrastinating filming the podcast, filming content weekly. It's still a really big struggle for me to push against that narrative, but I do it. Every week I have to show up for myself because this is a more important story to tell myself. So some common bad habits that a lot of people identify with is procrastination or procrastinators. A lot of us self-sabotage. We are very self-destructive. We find ourselves in toxic relationships and bad self-talk. I used to be a bad procrastinator. Just made everything worse. I just got more anxiety when I procrastinated. I didn't do very well in high school because I would procrastinate all my homework, all the studying, and it ended up showing itself in my grades, and I wasn't the brightest in the class. Even though I would consider myself an intellectual, I love learning, I love reading, I love anything that stimulates my brain. I didn't perform at the level that you would easily be able to tell. When I was in school, my mom told me I was lazy and I was a piece of shit, and obviously this was a lot of her projecting because she she didn't fail out of school. She dropped out of school because she got pregnant of me. And so I'm sure it was a little bit of insecurity knowing that my daughter's in a better school system than I ever was. And she's making it further than I ever did. And because of the stories that she told me, I thought I wasn't good at school. When internally I knew I loved learning. I love learning about history and science, but I let those stories deter me from actually working hard in school, and I ended up graduating with a really low GPA. I failed out of community college. That didn't take me anywhere because I let those years of my mom talking in my ear get to me. I wish I had this strong sense of self as a kid and as a teenager, because I would have told her to kindly fuck off and stop projecting. Disrespectfully, of course. And I wish I listened to that internal voice inside of me that was no, but you like this. It doesn't make sense. Her story and your feelings and reality don't make sense. Self-sabotage can look like having a really good streak at whatever it is, whether it's working out or completing projects on time or whatever it is, and then spiraling and doing something that completely goes against the pattern that you've started to build. It could also look like knowing what's good and bad for you and ending up just doing what's bad for you. Toxic relationships. This one is difficult because I think it also happens because we see people in toxic relationships and that's all we tend to know. And so we tell ourselves we can't do any better than those around us. And bad self-talk. I feel like every woman on earth has a difficult relationship with themselves and how they speak to themselves, which is so terrible because a lot of us do not speak this way to anybody else, to our best friends, to our mothers, to our sisters, to our daughters. Well, you shouldn't, but we just tear ourselves apart, or we even like belittle ourselves in our head, and we need to escape it, because honestly, the world has already told us such negative things about ourselves. Like, the last thing we need is to also be perpetuating those narratives about ourselves. We need to realize that we are not procrastination. We are not toxic relationships. I am Heather. I can procrastinate, but I can also get ahead of my work. I can be in a toxic relationship, or I can learn to be in a healthy relationship and learn to nurture and thrive under those circumstances. We really, if you think about it, even at our core, nothing is our core. Like, even being happy, I could teach myself to be miserable. Or if I'm this honest person, I could teach myself to lie. Anything is teachable, which means we learned what we currently do and are from someone else. And realizing that is such a trip. Like, I could literally be whoever I want, but the people around me taught me to be this way. But now that I'm aware and awake and an adult and capable, I have the responsibility to myself to actualize my dream reality, my dream person, and learn and take accountability and control of that life. Like I said, the bad habits come from what we see, what we learn, what we're told. And procrastination can be the fear of failure. You can avoid doing something because you're scared to screw it up. Self-sabotage is likely sourced from low self-worth or feeling undeserving. But who told you you had low self-worth? Who told you you were undeserving? You had to learn it from somewhere else, right? Toxic relationships, again, like I touched on earlier, it can be something that we have seen or witnessed, or something even our family and friends have told us is right. And bad self-talk. This especially is one that we can learn from our parents. Like, if you're a woman who speaks very ill of your body or your appearance, a lot of us have witnessed our moms like be on crash diets, or look at themselves in the mirror and pick themselves apart, or even say things about other women, which I feel like older generations are big on critiquing others, and it can be so harmful. But again, that's something we've observed from other people and learned. It can be kind of scary because all we have is our identity. We're told, like, you are who you are, like, don't lose yourself, don't change, don't, like, lose your core values. But if they're bad, there's nothing wrong with changing, or if it could be better, or if it hasn't worked for us in the past, there's no shame in shifting, and it can be difficult. This is literally learned behaviors a lot of us have had for 20 plus years. Would you rather have a difficult life of living with these toxic behaviors and low thoughts of yourself and these, negative identifiers? Or would you rather go through the difficult journey of changing and shifting and growing and metamorphosizing to ultimately maybe lead a better life, maybe live your dreams out, maybe even just have a healthier version of your current life? And I think that's one thing that people across the board, no matter what journey you're on, they're like, oh, it's so hard. And so they give up at the bottom of the mountain. But life is always going to be hard. Just pick your hard. Pick your hard. Decide what kind of hard life you want to live. I was reading this book. I think it's called The Pivot Year. Definitely recommend. It's full of a lot of like motivational little quotes. I wouldn't say it's the best book. It's a cute, inspirational book. Very light read. And there was this quote in it that said, losing yourself is not always a bad thing. The point is to lose some versions of yourself. The point is to let some parts of yourself disintegrate within the fire of your personal transformation. You are meant to grow as new evidence and experience are presented to you. as you adapt to new ideas, solve new problems, gain new skills, hear new perspectives, and see more of the world as it really is. We have to remember, like, you cannot grab a new life if your hand is already full of your old life. You literally have to let go of one to grab the other. So in this next week, I challenge you to look at your life and look at what you call yourself. Who do you think you are? Who do other people tell you that you are? And have you believed them? Do you like what they're saying? Are you proud of these identifiers? And where have these identities gotten you? So personally for me, like I said in the beginning, I identified as a procrastinator. I identified myself more recently as a shy person, as a socially awkward person, which may or may not be true, but I am moving through this next year as if I am and have always been a social butterfly. I'm putting myself in the settings, I'm talking to people, and I am telling the world I am a social butterfly. I am in my social butterfly era. This is also how I shifted my lifestyle into believing that I'm a healthy person. I am a healthy person. I enjoy moving. I enjoy taking new classes. I enjoy lifting heavy things. It makes me feel powerful. At one point, I was scared to step in the gym. At one point, I was scared of what the people around me thought of me because I was a little chubby. I was a little overweight, and I was scared that they were like, oh, she thinks she's a lifter. Oh, she thinks she's fit, but she's this YZ. Well, now I am, because I told myself I was, and I kept acting as if I was, and now I'm super strong and fit. And I'm going to be a muscle mommy. I am a muscle mommy. Therefore, I move through my day-to-day as a muscle mommy. I choose activities that continue to perpetuate that, and I will be a muscle mommy. You mark my words. I think you really need to look in the mirror before you try to improve and really audit yourself. This week, our cherubs asked a few questions. I got laid off from my job, currently applying for jobs and not getting any callbacks. Sucks. I'm so sorry, friend. I know that finding a job right now and the climate for job hunting is really tough right now. And I know you will get something. Everyone does. Eventually. It could take a few weeks. It could take a few months. But I would say in the meantime, definitely find yourself something maybe that you are interested in doing that doesn't have anything to do with your background or schooling or previous experience. Sometimes it could feel like we are overqualified and underpaid, but sometimes we just need to get our foot in the water. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who walks in the door of this underpaid, overqualified job. Even when you do feel like you're qualified and happy in a job, sometimes you do need to take on some extra things. Like when I worked in a hair salon, I felt like, okay, I need more money. And with my schedule, I can't take another receptionist job. So I took on a job at Dave & Buster's, and unbeknownst to me, I got fired from my cutie little receptionist job. So then all I had was that Dave & Buster's job. And did I feel silly working at Dave & Buster's after I thought I had left like the food industry? Yes. But it saved my ass. It got food on the table and it had my rent paid. So I'm not mad about it. And as long as you continue to push forward to find a job that suits you, get whatever job. As long as you don't, I know that happens sometimes, like people that go to school and have a degree, they'll get into serving in the meantime and they'll get stuck in serving for like 5-7 years. Just don't let that happen. Just don't stop applying to the jobs that you feel like are more up your alley and your true passion. One cherub said, it's shit to apply for basic jobs just to get money again. Then you can spend more time working towards waiting for the job you actually want. No pressure or rush. Literally what I said. Oh my gosh. I said it a lot last season, and I'm going to say it probably a million more times. We're always on the same wavelength. Saving money because coffee necessities. I'm really good at like being frugal. Like, I will always get the cheapest option, the cheapest toilet paper, the cheapest paper towels at the grocery store. I'm very aware of like what's, I don't know, a good price and what's not. Like, I am a thrifty girl. But if I want the coffee, I'm going to get the coffee. And currently I'm at the point where, luckily, thank God, resources are good and I don't really have to do that. But there was a time and a place where I wouldn't get coffee. I didn't pay for Spotify Premium. Like, all these little things that currently I think are like, you know, normal was a luxury for me. And I even had a coworker be like, you don't have a Spotify Premium? And I'm like, I'm trying to save for a house. So no, I'm not going to pay $9 a month for Spotify Premium. And I'm not going to pay XYZ for this specific thing that everybody here has. I have bigger goals. And I think keeping your goal in mind of what you're saving your money for, is it to keep a roof over your head? That's enough of a goal to keep you motivated. Or is it, I want a new car, I want to buy a house, whatever it is, I want to retire. Just keep that in mind. But also learn to not look at the people next to you and what they're doing. Because sometimes we can get down on ourselves. Oh my God, they're going to Cabo. Oh my God, they're going to the south of France this summer. And I'm stuck in my little old dinky town of fucking, I don't know, Louisville, Texas. Don't look at that. Just enjoy where you're at. It could be fun to save money. It could be fun to like DIY recipes and DIY your own little, but I would say just like honestly, exnate anything that's not essential. That could be clothes, that could be makeup, that could be our thrift runs. I get, personally for me, coffee is an essential. And like one thing about me is I'm going to get a bevy. I could be facing foreclosure and I'm going to be getting a bevy because I need that energy. I need energy to go make money, you know? I'm sorry. Good luck to you. And I know currently in these times, it's like everything is a necessity, but it's priced like a luxury. So like it is so difficult. You could also like make a little extra money on the side, open up your little own business. That's always my first thought, is like start babysitting, dog walking, grub hubbing. I feel so bad even giving advice because I feel like not that I'm out of touch, because I definitely have lived that life, but I lived it before things got so crazy like they are now. And at the end of the day, there's no shame in moving back in with your parents. There's no shame in having roommates. There's no shame in like going 3 ways with the groceries and like splitting a bag of cereal 3 ways. Like whatever you gotta do, don't let anyone tell you like, ugh, that's bummy, or like that's for scrubs. Whatever. I'm trying to live, I'm trying to eat, and I'm trying to enjoy my coffee, period. Okay, good luck. I feel stuck in life. I'm 22 and I feel like I'm so behind in life. It's crippling. I don't know where you are in life, but I feel like everybody in their 20s feels this way. I'm 27 and I feel this way a little bit. Like I touched in the last episode, it could look like I'm living my dreams, and I, in a lot of ways, am living my dreams, and in a lot of ways, I feel like I have regressed. Like, I did the whole thing backwards, kind of. I got married, I bought a house, and then I moved into an apartment. And then I moved back to my home state. It's like, even though my home state is amazing, it's just like, usually people first move out of their home state, and then they get married, and then they buy a house. And it's like, things keep going up and up and up. And I feel like I'm sliding back. But that's your 20s. Nobody has it figured out in their 20s. Not even the most posh, clean-cut, organized, educated, financially off person has it all together. We're all figuring out our passions and our drive and our money and the meaning of fucking life. Even our friends are shifting. Our bodies are shifting. Our bank accounts are shifting. Our understanding of the world is always shifting. We're not going to have it figured out. And I can guarantee you, at 22, you are a baby. The world can seem so big and scary when you're 22. And I know you probably hate hearing this, but it's like, you're still so young. 22 is like a blimp on the radar. You probably feel alone and like you're the only person that doesn't have life figured out. The funny thing is that everyone else at 22 is also feeling the same way, but not everyone is talking about it on social media. We all always want to keep appearances and make it look like it's so easy and I have everything figured out. But I promise you one thing, not a single 22-year-old has it figured out. Even if they have everything that the world deems as success, they probably don't have it figured out mentally or emotionally or with friends or with passions. Like, there's always going to be something that someone feels like they don't have figured out that someone else does, and you're always going to be looking at other people as if they have it all. Grass is always greener, I promise you. And just enjoy this period, because if you don't have it figured out at 22, it's fun, it's cute, it's quirky. Enjoy this time. You really get to play and figure it out and take your time, because unless you have kids, like, there's really little gravity to the whole situation. Like, if you don't have a passion yet, you get to live 5 different lives trying to figure it out. If you don't know where you're going to live, you get to have like fun experimental stages where you live in 5 different cities in your 20s. If you don't have someone that you love, well, guess what? The men probably ain't shit at 22. Like, it is totally fine. I want to give you a big hug, because I also feel like at 21, 22, I felt so lost. And honestly, up until recently, I was lost. It gets better, I promise. So cliche, but it does get better. One cherub said, I promise everyone feels the same. 20s are for exploring and learning. Yes, she is so right. And it can be fun to explore and not know where you're going to end up. Sometimes, no, not even sometimes. Every time, the journey is the fun part. Unsure if my partner will ever propose. Been together for 3 years in April, and I'm 25 and he's 30. Well, if you guys are partners, I would say, obviously, hopefully you've had conversations about it, and the more you talk about it, the more defined it should get with each conversation. And if you guys haven't talked about it, I would say he probably doesn't want to get married, or maybe he's scared to talk about it. It can maybe seem like a daunting topic when you're not married. I will say a lot of people feel pressure to get married by a certain age because of society's ideas. And as a 27-year-old married person, it literally doesn't really change anything. If you want to get married, start the conversation. But really ask yourself where you're coming from. Is it from your personal desires, or is it from maybe seeing that all your other friends are engaged and getting married? Is it from pressure from your parents or whatever? Figure that out. Have a good, honest conversation. Get a pinpoint time frame, and maybe even throw out like, oh my gosh, I always wanted to get engaged at the top of a mountain. I always wanted to get engaged in France or whatever. And if he's super like sus about it, I would leave, because one thing is that a lot of things that people think they can change their partner's mind about, they can't. And you see it time and time again where people stick together thinking like, oh, they'll change their mind about this. They'll change their mind about that. No, they're not going to. So believe them when people tell you what they want. And hopefully he also wants to get married to you, of course. Why wouldn't he want to? You're the prize. Okay, next question. How does one stop from thinking about an ex when it's so fresh? Some days are good, but most of the time I think of him. I miss him, but I wish he'd reach out, but I don't know. I know that he won't. I am sure you've heard that relationships and people you love is literally like a drug, and you have to detox after that person. You have to go, my personal opinion, you have to go like, what is it called? Cold turkey without talking to the person for you to fully get over them, you're going to think about them. You're going to crave that drug. You're going to crave that comfort and that rush of dopamine from talking to them or getting the satisfaction of having their attention. There's realistically no actual way to force yourself to stop thinking about them. You have to go through the process like you normally would. You can work on yourself. You can go out with friends. You can throw yourself into hobbies, and you can go on this self-realization journey and self-help journey. But you're always going to think about them for as long as you are going to think about them regardless. It can help to have distractions, and it can help to really learn to love yourself and grow yourself, but it's not going to cure you from heartbreak. It's not going to cure you from thinking about them, but it can help. So if I were you, I would work on all that. Work on yourself, find friends or hang out with friends, figure out your hobbies, figure out your passions, and I wouldn't even think about the next person. I know a lot of people say the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. You're just setting yourself up for more heartbreak. And it's like compounding, because you have one heartbreak over another, because you're trying to use all those people to get over the one. And it's like, if you just let it heal, you wouldn't need all those little band-aids, you know? So I'm sorry that you feel this way. Definitely don't reach out to them. I know you want them to reach out to you. Delete their number, block them on every single thing, so that not even on your most drunk day do you ever have the ability to reach out, because then you're restarting your whole healing journey and you're restarting the process of forgetting about them. In the past, my best friend went behind my back and was hooking up with the guy I was seeing. And I dropped them both. Now we're friends again after no contact for 9 months. And now I'm talking to someone new and I'm nervous. I'm nervous about introducing them to each other. How should I go about the situation? This is really hard because I have trust issues, and me personally, I would say cut her off. Have a conversation. I hope that you have had that conversation, and I'm sure that's how were able to be friends again, is having a conversation about how what she did made you feel and healing over those things. But I would really take that conversation home and be like, hey, it really hurt me. I'm really scared to bring you back into this side of my life. I really need you to like reassure me and tell me that won't happen again. I want to believe that won't happen again, but I also wanted to believe that you would never do it in the first place. So like, please just give me some love and reassurance and loyalty. And hopefully your friend does that for you, and hopefully your friend respects you. But it could be a tricky scenario. But I will say, a man who gets stolen wasn't worth having in the first place. So if this new person gets, whisked away by your bestie, throw both of them away. I know it's hard. Like, you don't want to fuck around and find out, because it'll hurt to find out. But sometimes it is what's necessary. So yes, proceed with caution. But just know, if it does happen, then you know for sure. And personally, I wouldn't let either of them back in your life. So if my ex keeps begging to be with me, even after all the toxic stuff he's done to me, does he deserve to be with me? Absolutely fucking not. You better block him on every single thing. Never talk to this man again. And I'm sure through the process of listening to this podcast season, you will build up your confidence and realize that you were worth so much more from the very beginning. And that's the thing about our worth, is like, we don't even have to realize it ourselves for it to be true. You don't have to realize that you are worthy to be worthy. And so you've been worthy from the beginning of this relationship. You are too worthy now to accept it again. And at the end of this season, you're going to be worthy and know that you're worthy, and you're only going to accept things that match your value. And this person is trash. If he's doing toxic stuff to you, whether it's mental, physical abuse, or manipulation of any sort, or even if it's half-assing a relationship, if it's breaking promises to you, the man is trash. Throw him away. You're worth so much more. And I can't wait for you to see that. I can't wait to hold up the mirror and be like, look how amazing you are. Look at all these beautiful things about you. Look how like so much more growth you have ahead of you, which can be so beautiful. And when you see that in the mirror, when you realize it, you're going to start attracting people that also see it. And I'm so excited for us to all go on this journey together. And that wraps up episode number 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, we're going to be going on a full glow up journey. So stay tuned. Make sure to follow the Cherub Chats Pod Instagram so that you can ask questions next week on our Ask Your Angels and help answer angels questions as well. Make sure to follow the YouTube channel for the Cherub Chats Pod to watch the podcast. And thanks for hanging out with me and having a little girly chat. And as always, you are never alone when you're part of the Cherub Club. I love you, and I will see you in the next one. Love you. Bye.